So let me get everything set up here. Gotta turn my mic off. All right, well, welcome to the live stream. Hope everyone's doing okay today. So I got some questions we're going to answer today and some things we're going to talk about. But SoCal Gunner, what's up? What's up with you? I hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good day. We're going to answer some questions today. And before we get started, I just want to mention, if you like the channel, if you like what I'm doing, you can support me by joining as a member or hit me up with a super chat. I believe those are active now in the chat here. Buy me a cup of coffee and just help me keep furthering the channel and keep upgrading the equipment so I can make better videos to help you all out. So if that's something you'd like to do, no pressure, but I just want to let you know that it's there. And thank you to Christos for joining us at the operator level. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So to get us started, we've had a lot of questions about slope and grade control coming into the channel, and like we have here in the chat from Norman. Norman says, I'm trying to learn the Level Pro system on Workin 200, but have no one to teach me how to set up the slope grade on the Level Pro system. I'm not sure if you're talking about a 200 Fi or a 200i, but they're both real similar. Basically, you're at the simplest level, your center screen is where your slope control is. A SoCal Gunner, yeah, I've run a W2000. That's my favorite machine from back in the day. Love that thing. But your slope control is your center screen. On your grade control, you have your depth on the right, your depth on the left. Might be backwards in the camera. But you have the center screen, that is your slope control. And you hit the swap button on the top. It looks like two arrows kind of overlapping each other, one going this way, one going this way. That'll swap your slope into your right side or your left side. And remember, your slope is basically a level. And so whatever grade you're holding on, say, the right side or the left side, it'll hold that depth, and then your slope will hold the machine at a specific angle from that in percentage, either up or down. And basically what you're doing there is it's going to keep the machine at like this plane, say if it's sloped down, or at this plane if it's sloped up. Your depth is over here on this side, your slope is on this side, on the right side or left side, depending on how you have it set up. So it's really handy to use even on jobs where you're not setting it to actually cut cross slope, because that's what it's intended for, but it's also a great shortcut for just skimming by like manholes or water valves that you've jumped on the previous pass. For ending your pass on the second cut, you can use cross slope for that too. And pretty much anytime you need to hold grade on one side, but you have obstacles in the way that the side plate is going to go over, and you can't just, you could just dial it through it. Like if it's a 2-inch mill, you could dial into 2 inches, dial out, and so you can do it that way, or you can run cross slope, or you can just shut the grade control off. But the downside of just shutting the grade control off, like this gets back to a question that I saved here from Abram. He was asking, when do I turn off the automatic and when do I use the slope sensor? And he wanted to know in detail. So I'm trying to cover as much detail as I can. And I had another question saying someone swapped to, and I'll get back to you, SoCal Gunner, just hold on, let me get through these questions that people have queued up. So what will happen is slope is good for when you have obstacles in the way, because sometimes people notice, well, I swapped to slope and then it ended up cutting like 3 inches deeper than I wanted to when I went over something. And that will happen if the slope of the ground that you're grinding changes. So like say your road's flat like this, and you're like, cool, I can just swap to slope and it'll go through it. But if right after your obstacle the ground tilts like this, well, your machine's going to still stay like this, and it's going to cut deeper. So you have to kind of look at your situation and see if slope is the best option. Now, if you have that situation going on, it's better just to dial the grade down and dial the grade back up, because then that'll compensate for it. And shutting the automatic off will only work if the ground that the tracks are going to be on stays at the same level. Again, if they go over a hump or something while the grade control's off, it's going to pick the machine up because there's nothing telling the machine to hold the same plane, if that makes sense. So there's situations for each option. I use slope a lot when I'm going by like a manhole I jumped or something like that, because normally I've got piles and chunks on the ground and things like that where the area where the front track is going to go is not even, so it's going to move all over the place. But slope will hold it at the same plane. But that's only like on flat ground, like the job I've been doing out in the desert at the country club right now. The ground is relatively flat. It's not that the slope of the ground never changes. So I can just switch to slope, and then whatever garbage has been falling off the belt or the people have shoveled over or whatever, it's going to compensate for that and hold the machine at the same level. It's super handy. And then when you do that, hey, George in Arizona, nice to have you here. When you do that, it'll hold you at the same level. And what you want to do is you want to watch now on your center screen will be your grade control from like the side you swap slope off of. So if you're using slope on the right-hand side, your right-hand side grade control, your side plate will be in the center screen. And as you go over the obstacle, you'll see the side plate come up and show that you're digging, say 2 inches. And as the side plate comes down off the other side, you'll see the number on the bottom, the actual slowly come back up to 0 or whatever you're cutting. And then you can swap back to the grade control. So that's the way to use it for that. So hopefully that helped. If you have any more questions about that, you can throw them in the chat here, or message me through a comment on one of the videos, and I'll try to describe it in better detail. But so SoCal Gunner, I'm assuming from your name you're in Southern California, and you just got a new to you W2000. You're talking about the old W2000, right? The DC, I think it was. Like, it's an old machine, or you got an extra 0 on there that. So you got an old W2000. Wow, I didn't know any of those were even around in the States anymore. Most of them have been sold off or sent overseas because of the emissions. That old cat doesn't meet the emissions controls. A lot of the smaller companies still have them around. It's a really nice machine. Is it one of the newer ones with the hydraulic cylinders on the side plates, or is it still the old cables lifting the side plates? That will kind of date it, whether it's a newer 2000 or an older one. So you're in Texas. Okay, that makes more sense. Texas is nothing like California for sure with the emissions laws. Hydraulic on the side plates. Okay, so it's one of the newer ones, so you're good there. The cable ones were a pain in the neck. Cables would always get sticky and not want to let the side plate go down, and you had the wire rope sensors on the thing. I think the hydraulic one I think still has the wire rope going down to the ski. I think it's been a while, but I haven't seen one of those obviously in probably 15 years. So Luis asks, I've noticed when I back up, my tracks kind of sway to one side. Any way to fix that or calibrate that? What kind of machine are you running? What model? That'll help me with that. Because some are like, basically you have to have the dealer adjust it, or you really run the risk if you're not really familiar with the machine of throwing some stuff way off. But if it's a FI model, it's super simple to adjust. I believe even in the I model, I honestly can't remember how to do it. If I had the machine in front of me, I'd be able to figure it out again really quick. But there's a way to adjust the trimming of the rear track, which is what you do on the FI models. But the FI makes it way simpler to do. So you work for the state, SoCal, and in Texas. Cool. That must be pretty easy. I know most state jobs are pretty cush. The 210i. Okay. You have to dig through the options. So you have to, you can try this. This might get you there. I can't remember offhand, but you can try steering the back legs either way, just moving the joystick. And then, or you have to hit the wrench button on the display and then steer the rear tracks. And that should take you to the rear steer or the steering adjustment options. And look at the icons on the screen. And one of them will be, I believe, like center adjust or something like that. It should be pretty obvious if you look at the symbol for it. And you can click into that by pushing the knob in and dialing it one way or the other. And you have to experiment to see which way does what, but that'll reset the trim on the centering of the tracks. I wish I had the control in front of me. I haven't run an iMachine on the regular for a while, but that's how you get to it. There'll be a listing going all the way down each thing where you can adjust the center position of the front tracks, the rear tracks, the maximum angle. Like there's a bunch of stuff you can adjust, but you can, one of them, I believe it's at the very top because they make it easy to get to, is the trim for the rear tracks to adjust the center. So check that out, or just dig around in the menus in the setup and the settings. You can't really hurt anything. They lock out everything that can really hurt you, where you can really get things out of whack. So the user adjustable stuff like that, you should be able to find. It's a cush at times, but as a mechanic, my work never ends. Always something to fix, learn, or fabricate. Yeah, well, you're going to find out on that 2000 because it's an older machine, so I'm sure it's got some things to fix. We only have in the company I work for one iModel machine left, and it's a 220. And I'm not around it very often, but if I get a chance to get around it, I can dig through the screen and find that for you. I just can't guarantee it'll be anytime soon, but when I do, I'll definitely put that video up. So the guy handed an old iMachine trying to get it dialed in. Yeah, if that's off, it generally means something got bent in the back, really, or they changed the steering cylinder and didn't do a proper teach-in on it, which is all stuff that you really can't get to as a normal operator. You have to have the dealer help you unlock some stuff. And the teach-in procedure, if you never heard of that, is those cylinders under the machine actually, and on the iModel and the FIs, they actually have a sensor in them that tells the machine how far in or out the cylinder is and locates that for the computer so it knows. And that's how it can tell where the center is or where whatever position the track is in, is that the smart cylinder, they call it, it has that sensor built into it, and that calibration of where that cylinder needs to be for straight is all settings in the computer for that. Looks like we got 7 people watching. That's awesome. Yep, exactly. SoCal relearn process. There's other equipment, I think, that run similar type of systems that have that. I know, like on the iModels, there's I can't remember how to do it, or even if you can still get to it as a user now, but they have a teach-in for the leg cylinders for the height. And if it's not right, you'll know because they'll raise too high and you'll end up just picking a track off the ground while you're tracking around it. When you raise it all the way up, like your back tracks will spin because one will pull off of the ground. And that's because the teach-in isn't correct on those cylinders. It's letting you raise the machine too high where it can't float anymore. And you'll know that by raising the machine all the way up, letting go of the sticks, and then raising them again and holding it. And it should raise all the way up to top the cylinders all the way out. And if it doesn't move more and top the cylinders out, then you know the teach-in is wrong on those. So this says, yeah, the machine runs fine, but when you lift it, it's really slow. Probably just hydraulic fluid is low. Maybe. If you lift it and it's really slow, and if you have a problem with any of the other hydraulics being a little bit slow or weak, it could be a cylinder functions pump that's going out. I know on the I machines, and especially it was a trick on the W2000s, I would turn up the pressure on the cylinder functions pump. I'm wanting to say it was 30 bar. I can't remember exactly, but it's really close to where it's at right now. It's just below a certain bar level, like a 20 or 30 or somewhere in there. And if you turn it up to the next, just a little bit, just a couple hundred PSI, you'll get way better response out of all the hydraulics, out of the steering, out of the raise lower, the conveyor, all of it. It just needs that little bump. Okay, you had a reclaimer stabilizer, had that. Yeah, it's a working thing. They have the smart cylinders. Everything on the new ones has a smart cylinder in it. The steering, the raise, lower, the back door, the front door, all of them. It uses pretty much every cylinder on the machine to know where it is and figure out what it's doing and do all that automation. It's on the 2000, you still have to level the back end manually when you go into a cut. So you have to have either the operator or the ground guy raise the back end as the back tracks drop in, versus like the new ones, it does it all automatically. It uses all the smart cylinders to figure out where level is. But that's crazy. It'd be kind of neat to run a W2000 again. I ran one for years when I was first learning. I went from the 1900 DC to a 2000, and that was like the flagship machine for a long, long time. And I really liked that machine. I liked the power it had. The torque rise on that old cat was amazing. Like you come into something hard and the machine wouldn't even slow down, just the turbo gets louder. It was great. Yeah, Lewis, it's in the menu box. Um, if you push in the knob, it should bring you to the menus, and I believe it's in setup and steering would be the way to go through the tree to get to it. Andre says, if you're milling a full width street, say 2 inches off the curb line, but the contractor wants to keep a 2% slope from the center line, how would you accomplish this without taking out the crown at the center line? Well, sometimes you are wanting to take out the crown, and you can only do that if it's like new curb and gutter, because if that curb and gutter that you're referencing off of is not perfectly straight, if it goes up and down like this, has low spots and high spots, or isn't consistent with where the street needs to be, you're going to end up that wave of the curb and gutter is going to follow you all the way across the street every pass. Because remember, it's just holding the machine at a specific angle. So it's holding it at 2 inches on the gutter, and it's holding it at 2% up. And so it's going to keep that 2% whether the curb goes down or the curb goes up. And that wave is going to follow all the way across the road. So the only way to do that, truly, is to have them put numbers on the ground manually and have you dial the numbers on the second pass, okay? So if you make your first pass and they have numbers for you to follow on the left side, say 2 inches, 2.5 inches, 3 inches, 1 inch, 2.5, 3, whatever, so you can correct the street at that 2% they want. Then on your next pass, as long as that all checks out and they check it and you're on grade for everyone, then on your next pass, you can just run 0 and 2% slope up. And in general, what will happen is that 2% slope is up to the crown is either going to be digging a little, which is what they want, or it's going to daylight out at 0, and you're not even going to be touching in the middle of the road once you hit the crown. So, and then what you'd want to do on the other side of the street is start at the curb, do the same thing. Make one pass to establish your grade by running 2 inches on the curb and following depth numbers on the other side, and then on your next pass, run slope up to the top, and it should zero out this way and zero out this way and end up with the crown right where you want it. Now, if they've repaved the street or did something with the street, you can also do it the opposite way. Start on the crown and cut 2 inches and then cut 2% down to the curb. And that sometimes works too, but it's generally easier to start at the curb, work your way out to the crown, start at the other curb, work your way out to the crown. So I hope that helps. But if they have new curb and gutter in that they've poured and you can follow that, then you're usually okay just to take 2 inches and follow 2% and let it do whatever it's going to do, because they've poured the curb to match the profile of the street that they're wanting the road to follow, if that makes sense. No problem. Appreciate the opportunity to help you out. So Cal, you said we're supposed to get a breakdown from Kirby Smith out here in Texas to show us the ins and outs of the machine. I found you when I was looking how a milling machine runs. Cool. I'm glad you found me. I try to do these live streams every week. I can't guarantee I'm going to do them every week, but I'm going to try. And it's had good results. It's kind of fun to get out here and talk with all the other operators and just see what they have to say and answer questions. And I don't know everything, but so far I've been able to help out, I think. So that's good. Appreciate being able to do that. It's been a long time since I've been around a 2000, but I remember quite a bit about it. There's some stuff how to get around in the computer display. You can't really do much without getting past it with a password, but they have everything kind of locked out. But those machines were still pretty rudimentary manual control and adjustment for everything. I think it still had the, like for the steering, like what the other guy was talking about, instead of having smart cylinders, it actually has a little arm on the leg that goes to the drag link, basically, that goes across, or it might even connect to the machine, I can't remember, and like a pot sensor that turns with it that tells the machine where the location is for the front tracks and rear tracks. That way you can get the coordinating crab to work, and tells it where the rear tracks are at center. And it literally has a little thing you can dial and adjust manually on that sensor to center the back tracks. Thanks, Lou. I'm glad I know more than the mechanics. That's awesome. I've always been kind of a nerd with these equipment, with these machines, and dug into learning how they work. At the company I worked at previously, I'd helped the mechanic out a lot. For a while, I kind of was the mechanic on my own machine, and if something broke or needed to be adjusted, I had to figure out how to do it. And I have a friend at the dealer that I can pick their brain quite a bit, one of their main mechanics, who's now moved his way up into kind of a sales role or sales support role. But I have him to pick his brain, and he's in contact with Germany. So if I really, really have a problem, and he's been able to escalate it to Germany for me and get answers, and that's kind of cool. It's good to have contacts like that. So is there a way to zero out the drop-down ski on the computer on the FI models? Yes, you do it exactly the same way you'd zero any of the other sensors. So set your side plates down on 0, so your machine's zeroed out, and then push your button on the panel to lower that drop ski while you're at 0, and then make that sensor active by, how it'll appear on the bottom, that sensor below all your grade controls, and you push and hold the button and the little circle will go around and then it'll match and become active. Then you can zero it that way. So without moving the machine, when you swap it into place and match it, it may say 2 inches, 3 inches, 1.5 inches, or 1/2 inch, or whatever it says. Then you can zero it then while the rest of the machine's at 0. Don't move the machine. Just have it down 0, 0 on the side plate, swap that sensor in, and then zero it like you do the others. It zeros exactly the same way. And it won't be perfect though. Even though you zero it like that, when you use it on the machine, it won't be perfect all the time. Because it's reading the ground ahead of the drum. So if the ground goes up, it'll raise the drum a little early, and it's hard to describe, but it's good for what it is. It's good for reading, like on a country road that has no curb and gutter, and you're just cutting off the side of the road, and you can't run off the base rock on the side of the road, basically, or the weeds or whatever it is. It's great for that. It's great for when you're grinding and you have nothing on the right to follow or left to follow, and you need to read off the existing asphalt. It's great for that too. Lewis, I'm not sure if you've been in the chat before, but where are you from? Where do you work? Do you have mechanics that work on the grinders? I get so many people through here, it's hard to remember who's where. I've seen some people that are repeat people that come in, and I appreciate that, and build an audience. That's kind of fun. Yeah, I'm glad that could help. How is the slope determined on the work-ins? What do you mean? How does the machine actually tell the slope? Is that what you're talking about? There's a sensor underneath the machine. Are they separate sensors? Yes. Okay. There's a sensor. You can see it. It's under the machine, above the spray bar on the drum. It's a little silver box. That's your slope sensor, and it's basically just a pendulum in oil inside of it, so it stabilizes it, that tells the machine where it's at. Oh, okay, DeSilva Gates, I remember you now. Awesome. Really? That's surprising that your mechanics aren't around the grinders much. They sent it to Nixon. When I worked for them years ago, they had over at the Gallagher and Burke's yard where the asphalt plant was. I think it was on Marina in Oakland. I can't remember. But over there they had a big shop, and they used to tear the machines down every year and rebuild them. They'd pull the drums out, hard face them, hard face the inside, change bearings. Like, they literally would go through the whole machine every year and refresh it. Sounds like they're not doing that anymore. I can't remember that street in Oakland that they're off of, where that asphalt plant is. Or if Gallagher and Burke's even still around, maybe that's not even a place anymore. So back when I worked for them, it was like two separate companies. Like, some jobs you'd be on were Gallagher and Burke jobs, and some jobs you'd be on were DeSilva Gates jobs. Okay, we do that in the winter, but unless we're grinding and paving, we won't have mechanics on standby. Gotcha. How's DeSilva treat you guys now? I know when I was there, I didn't really like it all that much because I was just a number. It was no personal relationship with anyone. It was just, you were just an operator. Yeah, I had a company truck too when I worked there with tools, but they didn't give us any tools. We had to stock the truck ourselves. But this is back in 2000, like 99, 2000, I think, when I worked for them. So you've learned to do some things yourself, apparently, by then, if you have to work on them yourself. Hopefully not too much. The big stuff, they come out with the cranes and stuff, they can actually work on them because some of that stuff's pretty heavy. Probably just the adjustments and things like that. Nine years, huh? Okay. 4 with the grinders, no complaints. Grinding, they'll keep me busy doing something else. Yeah, they tried to put me out on like dirt rollers and things like that because that's one of my biggest regrets in the union since I started as a kid was that I didn't learn other equipment. I really should have went to the ranch and learned to run like blades and stuff like that. Because running a blade is real similar to a grinder, similar process. They've always fascinated me. A good blade operator is just so much fun to watch. Now they cheat and use the GPS sensors and stuff like that, but a good old school blade operator is so cool to watch. Like on that job I was doing that I put the video up when I was going down 22 inches, the blade operator there was pretty awesome. You know, once I kind of ground it down and I had to stair step down because you can't go that deep in one shot. Plus I was separating the material for him. Then all he had to do was come in and basically peel the material off the sides of the cut where I couldn't get to into the middle into a windrow. And then I had to tiptoe the machine back as it's kind of rolling and rocking on his windrow. And that was fun, like for the whole entire length of the job, and then sit on the windrow and cut it out for him. But even when I did that, on one side he had made grade and they wanted me to cut slope on the other side while I was eating that windrow to try to still hit grade for them. So that was kind of fun, a little challenging. I think they wanted a 1.5% up from the shoulder edge. That's where the MDI really comes in handy on that, because you can watch your side plate on, like, say you're running slope on the left side, you can watch your side plate actual and see what the machine's supposed to be cutting, and then you can look at your MDI where your moldboard is and see if it's high or low, and kind of rock it on the up and down switch to get it to sit where it's supposed to, so it's actually cutting in the dirt what it's supposed to be cutting, if that makes sense. High Street, yep, that's it. De Silva Stallone's Gallagher, okay. It's been a while. That was where I did my job interview, was the office over off High Street. So don't use GPS in the state. We normally do FDR on county roads. Motor graders get used a lot for that there to do base repairs. Okay. Gotcha. We started, well, I shouldn't say started. This company I work for uses GPS quite a bit on some of the bigger jobs. And that was kind of neat to be around. That really blew my mind how accurate the GPS is. You can just go anywhere on the job site, turn the grade control on, and it'll just set down and take off. Hey, Manuel. How are you doing today? It's so cool to see people coming back in the chat that have been there weeks before. It's awesome. Can't pronounce that name in the language that came up, but I can answer the question the best I can here. Our profession is not the most popular, but it's very interesting. Good luck in the development of the channel. It's always interesting to watch and listen every time I learn something new. Awesome. Glad you're learning something new. And again, if you want to support the channel, I do have memberships turned on now where you can, I think the bottom level is just a couple bucks, and that just really helps out to, like I said, help cover my coffee habit and keep me going here at home with the editing and all the other stuff that I'm doing, trying to grow this channel. I'm hoping it's going to get actually fairly big. I think I'm up over 2,000 subscribers now, and that's all thanks to you guys, and I really appreciate it. It seems like I'm able to help some people out, so, or if anything else, it brings an audience to our industry that where people, there's no other way they can know how this stuff actually works. I get a lot of people in comments that just like, well, I've seen these machines, but I had no idea how they worked or what they were really for or what they're trying to accomplish. They're just out there eating the road, So it's kind of fun to be able to answer some of those questions. So if you want to support me, really appreciate that. But I'll be out here anyways, doing the best I can. Any other questions or things I can talk about? I know that slope and grade control is a little bit deep, so it's kind of a deep subject. So if I can clarify anything, I'd be happy to do it. Awesome. You got the rear gate to scrape level again, played with the valves you told me, and it worked. Thank you. Awesome. Glad it worked for you. There's nothing more frustrating than a back door that will not raise and lower level. Sometimes if you're in dirt and things like that, they'll get clogged up and you got to raise them and lower them and wash them out to get them to sit level, but it's a pain in the neck. I mean, they put smart sensors in them now at least, so the machine kind of tries to level them even, but it can still, the computer has to fight the hydraulics that go through that valve, so you have to get those valves dialed in. And it takes a while. Sometimes you're under there, you look stupid just raising it, lowering it, raising it, lowering it, but be dialing those valves in. Once you get it, you're home free. So we got 8 watching now. It's awesome. Let's see who's in the participants. So I like to ask this every week, but what kind of videos are you guys enjoying the most that I do? Is it the how-tos? Is it the ride-alongs, the POV stuff? I'm trying to do more of the POV stuff because that seems popular, and I like to kind of working on doing some more commentary, just kind of what's going through my head while I'm running the machine, because there's so much you do. It's just like you do it automatically. You're not even thinking about it anymore. And I forget to mention, but trying to remember to talk about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and what's going on. Like even just simple stuff like loading the trucks and how to know how much to load them and how to beat the heat when you're working in the desert and it's 115 outside. So Luis, you like the how-tos? Yep. SoCal, the POV and the how-tos. So I'm trying to do the POV stuff and mix some how-to into it. And then maybe I'll edit out some of the how-tos into separate videos and save them. So where is De Silva working now? Where's some of their projects? They still do the big housing developments, and then you have to come in and grind for the new paving, or come in and grind after they put in the temporary paving and it gets all destroyed from the scrapers and all that. Are they doing big paving jobs? I think De Silva used to do some of the airport work, but I can't remember. That might have been all top grade. And who did top grade join with? One of the asphalt plants. It's really cool when I can talk to people that work for companies that I know. Overlays in Oakland Hayward this year, prepping for Oakland Airport and Reading Airport. Wow, Reading. Yeah, they used to, and they may still do it. They do that big overlay in Oakland every year. It's constant. You'll have like 100 streets they're going to do or something. They used to just wedge cut them, but now the center of the streets have gotten so high they have to reconstruct them or at least do a full mill all the way across. Like nobody does wedge cut anymore, and I really hate that because that was my funnest kind of work to do. I love doing wedge cut. You're just looking at that gutter all day long and just following it. Kept your mind busy and you cover some ground. It was fun. 6 grinders in Reading day and night. Does De Silva have 6 grinders? I'm sorry you have to sub it to ABSL. I really am. You should tell him to ask Delta work for them. Have Delta sub it or ANRAC. Okay, 5 grinders and a mixer. I started my career at ABSL back in '98, I think, and right when I was 18. And back then they had some really, really good operators. Um, Now it seems like unless they've been upgrading their equipment, it's not so much the operator's fault, but it's the quality of their equipment isn't the greatest. They used to have to bring 2 machines to every job, so they had a backup for when the first one broke down. Yep, ANRAC lost their good operators all to PRS. Yes, a lot of that did happen. A lot of their senior guys got offered. I mean, they were offering like huge sign-on bonuses at PRS to get them. Okay, who was the OG at ABSL that taught you? Don't tell me it was Tony Maddle. Can't wait to hear the name of who the guy was because I may have known. Mario. Okay. Yep, I knew Mario. He probably wouldn't remember me, but he might if he's seen me. If not, he would remember my one of my better friends, Hawk, that worked there. He works at Delta Grinding now. He's an OG now. Yeah, he still have long hair, if I remember right. And his brother, he had a brother they called Junior, and the old man, the dad that worked with him. Be curious if Junior's still doing grinders. Yeah, when I worked there, there was Mario Jr., Senior, they called him, the old man, and then Tony Maddle. He was their top guy, mainly because he could work night and day because he had some special help that would help him work night and day, if you know what I mean. Yeah, same guy. His brother is at Roadway. Mario retires next year. God, I'm getting old. There's guys that I worked with back then that are retiring now. Because I was just a kid, so he had to have been just in his late 20s, somewhere in there. Because I'm going to retire. Yeah, I know Tony passed away. Yeah, he worked with me a little bit at Delta Grinding, and then he went somewhere else for a little while, and then I heard that he passed away. He was a fun dude, don't get me wrong. I really liked him a lot. He was hilarious. He was a blast to work with. He was a good operator too. When he worked with me at Delta, he was my ground man, and I think that really bugged him that he was a ground man. He wanted to be an operator still. But he's the first guy that put me behind the wheel of a low bed. Still remember that. I didn't even have my license yet. We were just sitting in traffic, stop and go in Antioch, and he just got out of the seat and said, "Here you go, drive us home." It was just the way he was. It was cool. He was a cool dude. Scrub. That's funny. He used to love that song. He'd always start blaring it in the trucks. I used to ride with him every day out because that way I didn't have to commute. I'd hop in the truck with him and take off. This old pipe. Okay. So if you're saying that, you must have known Tony too. Where are you from? Or is that somebody I know? Trying to look at your profile pic there. It's really small. Can't see it. Okay. I know who you are. That's kind of awkward. You joined my live stream, but that's pretty cool too. Ryan, there's one of my best friends from childhood. He's been with me since the beginning, even at ABSL. He knows me real well, and hopefully he can vouch that I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so Ryan, this old pipe, that's hilarious. Uh, what was the name of the other guy that was big at ABSL? I don't think he passed away, but he might have. Cannot remember his name to save my life right now. Rod, there you go. My Rod. He was a cool dude. It's kind of like in music, all the greats die too young. But that cracks me up that Mario's still around in junior too. It's been a long time. Kind of cool to see those guys. See if they remember me or not. Last few times I worked with a few ABSL grinders, man, their equipment was pretty dilapidated. At the company I worked for, Delta, we would sell all of our old grinders to them, and they were like brand new to them, even though they were like way below standard for us. Right, we're up to 12 people. Yeah, this old pipe has worked with me in grinders for pretty much my entire 20-something years of doing this. Yeah, they do have FI models, but they work them to death. We sold our I machines to them a long time ago. I wanted to say we even might have sold some of our 2000s to them back in the day. It's good they're getting some newer equipment. Hopefully some good operators too. So Lewis, is that kind of normal for De Silva now? They use ABSL to cover the work? Kind of makes sense. They're all in the same sort of area. I'm sure Louis got some ties with some of the big wigs at De Silva. Oh, okay. Caltrans work, they have a special license. It's probably their disadvantaged business. Granite Rock, that's who I was trying to think of that Top Grade worked with. I think they're all Granite Rock now too, aren't they? We use Granite Rock a lot, and then because Granite Rock is basically FMG, and I know that's where I think Mario came from, or Junior. I think they worked for Granite Rock for a while. That's what I had heard anyway. Does Silva ever send you out to San Francisco to do any work? That seemed to be where I always got stuck. San Francisco work was kind of my gig. Nobody else wanted to go there. It's always easy work there, though. As long as you can get the truck in and out, the work is easy. So we got 10 minutes left. So if there's any final questions anybody wants to ask. Yep. This old pipe, getting to the job is the hard part. Once you learn the city, it's cake. But it's always fun to make it sound as hard as possible so nobody else would want to do it, because San Francisco work always was cool, never hot, easy work. The contractors were all really cool. I'm really surprised the majority of the people that I talk to in these live streams work for companies that have their own grinders and pavers, but they don't rent them out. Like over here in California, it's a big thing to have the rental companies. There's several big rental companies that just work for all the different paving contractors. Hey, Dave from the Netherlands. Nice to have you here. What kind of work do they do in the Netherlands with milling machines? Really curious. Is there a lot of road work out there? Same as what we do. Okay. You work for a paving company, or is it just a straight up milling company only? Yep, that's true, SoCal. I get that too. A lot of times too, I think, I don't know if it's still the same way, but they had like a horsepower limit. Like if you have only a set amount of equipment, they like add it all up. And if you meet a certain threshold, then you got to have so much equipment that's qualifying. But if you're just a small company, they'll pretty much let you do anything. I still think that's so cool. You have a W2000. Now, I would think there's hardly any of those in existence except for way overseas. I'd really like to run a W2000 again. Still think that was this old pipe. You can probably pop in on that one. The W2000, I think, was my favorite piece of favorite grinder ever. It was the perfect size. I liked that the rear steer was proportional. Yep, exactly. 2000 was a beast. If they could just kept it going and kept upgrading the electronics on it, that would have been a great platform. So you have 3 large milling companies. Okay. You do personally, like the company you have 3 offshoot milling companies basically, or are you talking about in your area there's 3 large companies? Hey, I'm down, SoCal. It's fine. You fly me out there and give me some good barbecue. We can talk. That's actually one of my long-term goals with this. If this takes off, I'd love to be a trainer that can go around and actually talk with employees at different companies and give them little trainings and stuff like that. That's kind of why I'm trying to make some side cash so I can save up to go to the work in schools, actually, because it's been so long since I've been there. I did go to Tennessee and take some of the classes years and years ago for the I model machines, but when they first came out. But I haven't been able to take the trainings on the FIs to dig into the electronics and the hydraulics and things like that. Okay, in the Netherlands, you have 3 companies. That's cool. So I take it if they're just milling companies, you work for multiple contractors, paving contractors and stuff like that, kind of like we do here. What machines do they run out there? Do they have the same kind of emission standards as us where you got to keep the new equipment? That's the goal, to get out to Tennessee and learn some more stuff so I can be more help, both here at the company that I work for and for on here. The mechanic at this company, we get along great because I can speak the lingo. Like he has me help him out a lot. Every time I go to the yard, he hands me a new part and is like, "Hey, whenever you're around this machine, can you fix this?" And so it's kind of fun to be able to help out. I'm one of the only people he trusts to actually turn a wrench on the machines. So the more I know, the more I can help. Okay, you have an IT business. That's cool. So we got about 5 minutes left. So if there's any other questions anybody has, throw them in there. This old pipe is one of the only ones in my friend group growing up that was smart enough to get out of this industry while he could. So you gotta understand, I grew up in a small town, and there was probably 5 of us that all ended up doing asphalt milling, and that was our career. We had one good friend that passed away, and the rest of my old friends are still doing it. Cool. Yeah, get back to me, Lewis. Kind of curious how that works out for you. I really wish that. See, on the FIs, they made everything much more simple to get to. They hid everything behind like 4 different menus on the I machines, and it's hard to remember how to dig in there. But if you go, push the knob, go to setup, steering, just poke around in there. The stuff that'll really mess something up is going to be locked behind an IPR code, so you can't really mess anything up. Just remember where it was so you can put it back if something goes haywire. Take notes. Seems like it's getting harder and harder to find people that are, I don't know if any of you guys have experienced this, but finding people that are capable of doing this work. For some reason, the generation growing up today, they just don't get it. So I'm happy the company I work for right now, they've got like 4 people that are under the age of 20 that are really good operators. It's nice to see some young ones doing it. Yeah, so God, let me know how that training goes. So Dave says some of my customers works with free something. I can't tell what that is. Sometimes they're one man short and I help out. Work in Euro 6 emissions with DEF. Okay. Sounds like it's real similar to what we have here. Can't stand the DEF. It seems like that stuff, the equipment for the DEF is always failing. It's a pain in the neck. That's why in the company I used to work for, we went to the FIs because that cat motor doesn't use DEF. Way more reliable. Cat John Deere, in my opinion, can I see milling as being a lucrative, just being a sub for asphalt paving companies? If you can get the customers, yes, I think it is. And I think it's better because all you do is milling, so it's easier to keep up on the equipment. A lot of paving companies, their machines get trashed really fast because they think, that they can put just anybody on them that knows what the buttons do and they can take care of the machine. And that's just not the case. As we're a milling only company, you'll usually get better operators. And so you kind of become popular really quick. So yeah, I do think, I mean, that's kind of what I would do if I had the money, honestly. I would start a grinding company myself, but I don't want that kind of stress, nor do I have that good a credit. Figures not many people know how to run a 2000. Oh, I can still get on a 2000 and tear it up. I know that for sure. It's like riding a bike. Yep, Dave, most machines have Cummins. Yep. Working's getting away from Cummins now that they're John Deere, though. Like our new FI machine has a John Deere motor. Our new 120s have a John Deere motor. So they're getting away from Cat, and I'm kind of curious how that's going to go because it's harder to get parts for John Deere. You can't just, go to your local truck supply and get Cat parts like you can because everything crossed over, you know what I mean? The truck cats were the same as the industrial cats. For the most part, you can get parts anywhere. John Deere, not so much the case. You got to go to ag suppliers and stuff like that. Thanks, SoCal. Yeah, I've been around a while. Not many people in this business can say they even remember what a W2000 looked like or what it even was. Well, it's time for me to go. So if anybody else has any more questions, just comment on one of the videos that's relevant, or even if it's not relevant, just comment on the videos because I see every comment and I try my best to respond to them. And again, if you want to support the channel, that lowest tier membership or any of the memberships you'd like to do, I really appreciate helping me out and helps support me keeping going. And I'd like to get some newer equipment that I can do a little bit better job filming on the job sites. That would be awesome. But, yep. See you, Ryan. Nice to have you here. And that's cool. Yeah, send me a link. I'll check it out. But until next Sunday, you guys all be safe on your jobs, and we'll talk to you later.